There we go. So welcome back. Welcome back. I hope you had nice December. I hope you ate a lot of hallacas if you had the chance to, or at least I hope you had the chance to be together with your families in December. I know we all had amazing news on January the 3rd. And by the way, today we're going to work with that specific news we got uh, in on January the 3rd. So today we're going to work with teaching reading and writing in EFL. Remember, EFL means English as a foreign language. But important thing, we're going to be working with authentic texts, scaffolding. This, guys, this I cannot stress enough. I cannot stress enough how important this technique has been. And I speak from my own experience, how important this technique has been for my improvement as a teacher. You cannot believe it. Maybe you already use this technique, but you didn't know the name, or you didn't know you were using it, or a similar technique. You will see it today. And of course, there is another technique for reading and writing, which is integrated sequences. We will take a look at both of them today. So we'll see how important or how to adapt real world texts for EFL learners. And when I say real world texts, is getting, for example, an article from CNN, from the New York Times, from the Globe. So you get the article in English, a real article, and turn that real piece of information into an exercise. It's not the typical reading that you find on a book from an academy you work for. No, authentic information. We are gonna, of course, use scaffolding to support learning. As I was mentioning during the introduction, scaffolding is a technique that will help you organize everything you teach, not just reading and writing, and how to create integrated reading, writing, reflection tasks. So I want to start like this. In the chat, in one word, how do you feel about teaching reading and writing? Is it easy for you? Is it difficult? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Have you ever taught reading and writing in your classroom? Let me know in the chat, please. Have you ever? I'm gonna eat another chip while you answer. Mhm.
Teacher, hi. Sorry,
Mhm.
I sent you to the chat the
The link
class.
to the class?
Yes.
Guys, that link that Maria Daniela sent is from a class I taught to her group some time ago. And it's a class focused on the technique of scaffolding. Today, we're going to use scaffolding based on reading and writing. But that class is pure scaffolding. What's the technique about? Okay. So, and I think that's teacher Carla's class, right? Is it? I can't remember.
I don't know. Let me.
I think it is teacher Carla's class because she was invited. She was a guest teacher for the class. I think.
I don't know. Let me see. And I tell you.
Or not. I can't remember. Okay. So, teaching reading and writing could sometimes be complicated. It could be tedious. Like, oh my God, I don't know what the importance is, or my students don't like working with this, because that's something that could happen more often than you think. But today, I hope you can use these techniques to work with your students. So, scaffolding. What is scaffolding in EFL? So, scaffolding is basically providing support structures that help learners, your students, move from their current level, like what I can't do yet, to a higher level of understanding. So now your student knows what he or she can do. It's basically taking your student by the hand and guiding him or her through the exercises. It's not just that you give your student some reading and you tell them, okay, read the article and answer the questions. That's not scaffolding. Because when you present your students with a reading, sometimes there are words they don't know. There are new words, or maybe tricky words or expressions. I was talking with the previous group, and I told them, for example, we all know the meaning of a word book. And if you don't know, please consider your career choice. But not a lot of people or learners know the use of the word book in this context. Let's book a room. Here, book is like what we say in Spanish, reservar. Okay, reservar. Let's book a room. So here, it's a different use of a word book. What if in the reading you show your students they have the word book, but it's not libro, it's reservar, agendar. Your students would be confused. With scaffolding or scaffolding the content, it will be easier for them to understand. Just for starters, scaffold means andamio, like this structure that painters use to reach higher places when they are painting a building, maybe. If you want to look for information about this technique in Spanish, it's called andamiaje cognitivo, scaffolding, andamiaje cognitivo. If you want to do some research on the technique. So the key scaffolding strategies, like how we organize this, are the following. First, building. Break tasks. I mean, whatever your students need to do, break the tasks into steps, little by little. Then modeling, show examples of what they need to do. And finally, guiding, ask questions, give clues. Sometimes you can also have them use the new words they learn through this process, use those words on new sentences when they are writing. So that's another way to apply this technique. Now, common things that we use to scaffold or separate or help step by step. Pre-reading questions. So let's suppose that you have a reading about, I mean, you know the reading is about a group of kitties who were living in a shelter, and then a lot of famous people adopted them. Just to give you an example. You know that's the reading. But if the name of a reading is Foster Kitties, that's the name, Foster Kitties. So before reading, you can ask your students, hey, do you like cats? Or do you have any pets in your house? Have you ever visited a shelter? Or do you know what a shelter is? Have you ever adopted an animal or a pet? Pre-reading questions to know how much your students understand about the context. Visual aids, you can also show them pictures about kitties in a shelter. It will help them know. Glossary of keywords. So you give them some words that you think might be new for them, or maybe not new, but difficult to understand because of the context. So you give them a glossary, like with the meaning. It's easier for them. Or writing frames, which we will see today. So that's, as you see, you are giving your students some steps to follow so that they can reach the final goal. That is scaffolding. So, why use authentic texts? Maybe use with any level? Yes, Elena, with any level. Any level. Today we're going to talk about that as well. Now, first, what are authentic texts? Real world texts created for native English speakers, not designed for EFL learners. I mean, when you, the normal readings or activities that we use with our students, they come from books or from web pages on the internet, of course, that are specifically prepared or curated for students. Those articles or those readings, their language is simplified. But there is a big problem. When your students in the real world, when they want to read something in English from the New York Times, from the Boston Globe, the Chicago Tribune, whatever, the Miami Herald, they want to read something. And that reading contains a lot of words they have never seen in their lives. Well, those readings they find from those news websites, those are authentic texts because they were written for American English speakers, for British English speakers. The journalist who wrote them, he wasn't thinking about, oh, this article will be read by Hillary, and Hillary is a Venezuelan girl who's starting to become an English teacher. So I need to simplify. No, no, no. He's just going to write down his article with the words that a native speaker would use to express something. So that is authentic text or authentic material. Now, what are the pros of having authentic texts in our classes? Well, engage and motivate learners because these readings, you can adapt them and use them with your students about, let's say, about their favorite stuff. For example, I'm preparing a class for a teenage student. She's 12 years old. She's a huge K-pop fan. She loves BTS, and if you all know about the K-pop world, BTS is about to have some concerts in Colombia. So I found an article about them, and I'm going to have my 12-year-old student work with that article. So it's an authentic material. So for her, it's like, oh my God, I get to talk about all these guys on BTS, but At the same time, I'm learning English, so she's extremely motivated. So that's interesting for your students. Now, at the same time, you expose your students to real English. As I mentioned, it's not the same reading an article from an English book, which is designed for people who are learning English, and the same article from a news website. Is not the same. It would not have the same structure. It will not have the same type of language. And they make your lessons more interesting and relevant because your student is not going, it's not just going to be interested in the content, is also going to be like knowledge, it's going to have some knowledge about what's actually happened in the world. So that's something to bear in mind. Now, there are some cons about it. What happens? Sometimes, not sometimes, all the freaking time, you have some complex language and even some slang expressions. And they are difficult, especially if your student is from the starter level, from the A1 level and the A2 level. So it could be difficult, but scaffolding can help you with this. There are some cultural references that may be confusing. For example, imagine trying to use, this is a fun example, but imagine, I left Venezuela in 2017. I'm curious, guys. Let me know in the chat. This These newspapers in Barquisimeto, I'm not talking about El Informador or El Impulso, El Diario de Lara. These newspapers, and remember the news were redacted like Le cayeron a plomo y no sobrevivió. Like those were the titles. Do these newspapers still exist in Barquisimeto or Venezuela in general? Let me know because, as I mentioned, I left the country in 2017. I don't know. No? Most of you tell me they don't. Okay. Well, the thing is, fue a comprar pan y le dieron pan, pan. Yeah, something like that. Something like that. So imagine that you are teaching Spanish and you have the idea of using one of these articles to teach Spanish. Yes, it's an authentic text, but that line, that thank you, Lily, that Lily wrote down, fue a comprar pan y le dieron pan, pan. Imagine trying to explain that to an American person, someone from the United States, who's learning Spanish from you. Trying to explain that. So it's a cultural reference that is confusing for them. And sometimes too many confusing stuff in the same reading can be overwhelming. So those are the cons. Now, guys, now that we have talked about authentic texts, let me know in the chat, or you can use the microphone if you will. What authentic texts would you enjoy using in class? What authentic text? And here I'm talking about anything. For example, I can't remember who from you guys, but one of you chose an article about a fictional story from the game Genshin Impact. Another one of you wrote down about an article from the anime My Hero Academy. So I love that because it's not common things. And those were funny for you to use. From the language nerd from Facebook. Yeah, they have some authentic texts. They're really funny things, by the way. But what other authentic texts would you enjoy using in class with your students? Tell me, let me know. Think about the things you like, the things you know a lot about, and of course you would love using with your students. Tell me. Crepúsculo. Ah, yeah, from the books, but yeah, I don't think that's great to use. I That's great to use. Problem is students would need to watch the movies first. They would need to watch the movies first. And remember, Marianela, this new generation is like I don't like those kind of movies. Some of them don't, but people know who Robert Pattinson is, at least. So they would like watching them. So in your case, you could get some uh, abstracts from the books, from the books of the movie, based on the movie, sorry, and use them as your material. Is authentic material. So that can help you a lot. That can help you a lot. Mhm. Songs from One Direction, Jonas Brothers, Big Time Rush. Yeah, yeah. I use songs that I know for sure that my students have no idea about the bands. Songs from bands from the 90s. My students don't know, for example, there is a band from the 90s called 311. They don't know that band. They might know Green Day because it's more famous. They might know Coldplay. It's famous. But my students don't know 311. My students don't know this other band called Chevelle. My students don't know Three Doors Down. Young students, they don't know them. Even adults, they don't know them. And they are great songs. I know they work perfectly in a classroom. So now, this is an authentic example. And by the way, YouTube, disclaimer, I am using this as as an example for an exercise. Okay, this is a real story. It really happened. Okay, this is not spreading fake news. Just for you to know, YouTube, this is for educational purposes only. So this is an authentic text example. Let's take a look. So Nicolas Maduro captured, faces trial in New York. So on January 3rd, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores were captured by U.S. forces in Caracas. Maduro has been transported to New York, where he will face charges in a federal court. He's accused of narco trafficking and corruption allegations, including accepting millions of dollars in bribes from drug cartels. So, this is just a small part of a bigger article, but this is authentic text. About this text, how would you, in a different Venezuela, because I know you guys there cannot work with this because you know the reasons, but how would you adapt this article for your EFL learners, especially those who are already working? Think about the things you could do with your students about this article. Let me know. Let me know. How could you adapt this article? What changes could you make? Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. We could have a debate. Nice. Nice. There could be a debate, but not talking like people know he should have his rights. A poor president has been captured, but maybe a debate on why are people becoming upset about the fact that this guy was captured, for example. If I were exactly, if we're in a free country, of course, that's one adaptation you could do to this. What else? Yeah, he deserved it. I want him. Uh, the other one and the other one I cannot mention because YouTube, but I want them on a live, if you know what I mean. Lily says, I mean that the article is really easy to understand in the way it's already written. Written. Yeah, yeah. But Lily, you work as a teacher, right? Do you work with children or with teenagers? Children? Okay, so yes, imagine it's a free country, Lily. Imagine it's a free country. How would you work this article with children? I know it's crazy to say, but how would you? It's children. How would you adapt this article to work with children? I know it's a crazy question, but let's just humor me. How would you? You can use your microphone if you have, Lily. Uh, Mapa conceptual. I don't know, Marianela.
Do you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay. I don't know how to say it. Okay. Well, I think the date is well on January 3rd. Nicolas Maduro.
No,
I
no, no,
think
no,
I
no, no,
I
no,
think
Lily. No, no, Lily. I'm not talking about the words in the article. I'm
okay.
talking about how would you work? How would you adapt this article to work with children? Because, like you mentioned, yeah, it's the language is easy to use. It's really easy to use, but not for children. Not for children. So, what
Okay.
adaptations would you have to do?
Well, I think I can say them that the president of our country was captured by United States
Mm-hmm.
because he's a
Tra-
narcotrafficker.
trafficker, trafficker,
I don't know how is the word.
trafficker. Mm-hmm.
Sir, trafficker. Okay, because he is a narco trafficker, and I don't know. I think that it's um wait, I'm blank. I think that it's that reason is enough to be captured.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know
You
if I
see,
need to
I
explain.
mean, I got you in a pickle because I mean, you work with children, and oh my God, how can I work about
Yes.
this? I mean, in a free country where you guys were able to celebrate with any repercussion,
Yeah.
you could
Well,
do this. Like you could do this with
yo soy
children.
muy clara con mis alumnos.
Yes.
And they know me. And if the country were free, I will be free to say, guys, do you know that Nicolas Maduro has captured? Let's celebrate.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, but in this case, I think that the word narco trafficker is just rude for the children.
That's why, especially because children, what are their parents gonna say? I mean, it's something they need to know because their parents are supposed to talk to them about drugs, supposed to tell them that, hey, this is something you shouldn't, no, you shouldn't, you cannot do because of this, and that. But still, you need to soften this. Like you have vodka and you need to add some water to make it easier to drink. Well, listen to what your friends are saying. Thank you, Lily. Iraldine says, I could explain them the reason why he was arrested. Okay. Alejandro says, maybe explain that it's a bad person. Okay. Yeah, because it's children. We could make a story. I mean, about that. Of course, replacing the characters. Yes, that's another way. And good idea. Make it with animals. Like an animal trying to catch another animal. And you can at the same time work with the name of animals. So that's a good way to do it. So that's an example, okay? Now, this is a simplified version, and we will talk about the changes, okay? So Nicolas Maduro taken to New York for trial. Now, on January 3rd, U.S. forces captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores in Caracas. Now, Maduro is in New York for a trial. He will be in a court for drug and corruption crimes. Maduro is accused of taking money from drug gangs. You see how now we have simpler sentences? Because, guys, I kid you not, some students would not be able to understand this. And this one could be less complicated, maybe less difficult for them. Maybe it would be in history books, it would say like he was captured because he made illicit or illegal. Yeah, absolutely. Like the tiger tried to catch the lion and stuff. Yeah, because it's children. It's children. So, of course, story like this, like simplified, simpler sentences, could be better for your EFL learners. Of course, depending on your students. I use the example of Lily because I know she works with children. Maraniela works with adults, so it's a little bit different. Again, we're talking about this as if you were in a free country where you could work about this with no repercussions whatsoever. That's just an example. This is the scaffolded version of the same article. What difference can you see? Look, what do you already know about this person or event? This is a question before the reading because your students, of course, they know. Of course, they know. So you can activate the previous knowledge. A pre-debate, exactly, Geraldine. A pre-debate. What do you already know about this person or the event? What have you read? What do you think is going to happen? Look at what we do here. We have a glossary of words that maybe our students don't know. So captured is a verb, caught by force or arrested. Federal court is a noun, is the U.S. court for serious crimes. Allegations is another noun. Claims or accusations. Oh, so now that our students know the new words, and in fact, they are in different colors, as you can see, they can read. Sorry, there's a mistake here because this was generated with AI. That's why the E is missing here. But you get the idea. This version is easier for your students. Again, imagine there is a drink here in Argentina called, oh my God, I forgot the name in Spanish and in English and whatever. Fernet. 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 Fernet is a alcoholic drink, and you buy the bottle of alcohol, but you cannot drink it pure. Like you need to use some Coke, like Coca-Cola, with the Fernet. So it's if this is my glass, I would serve this amount of Fernet, the liquor, and the rest Coca-Cola. And it gets this flavor. Don't worry, Lily. This flavor is like, I don't know, it's like sweet. It's nice. It's a nice flavor. So you do that so that you can drink the Fernet. So scaffolding helps your student. Hello, Diego. Scaffolding helps your students digest, understand the content easily. Now, when your students are reading, or yourself when you're reading, focus on names, places, and dates first. Then you can look at the actions. Why? Because normally when our teachers or when you give like questions, comprehension questions about a reading, you can ask them about the dates. You can ask them about the places. And those are easy for your students to spot. Maybe you can ask your students to highlight, okay, use blue to highlight the name of places. So your students do something like this. Is there any other? Yeah, there you have those two. And then it's easier for them to go back if they have to answer questions like this. Now, why do you think this news is important internationally? What do you think working with this type of news, is important in a class? Why? What do you think working with news like this is useful in a classroom? Because it's a major event? Yes. Internationally, of course, people are talking about it whether you like it or not. People are talking about it all around the world. It's like with the Nobel Prize, when Maria Corina was given the Nobel Prize. A lot of people around the world that time, they knew who Maria Corina was. So that was another article which you can use. You don't focus on classroom vocabulary. Exactly, Raline. You can use real life vocabulary about real life events because this is an authentic text, authentic information, and it's way different. And from my point of view, is more productive to work with things like this than working with an article which was specifically prepared for students who are learning English. Yes, those are okay. But what happens when they are in the real world, when they need to face real information? See what I mean? Ah, sorry. Before we continue. Ah, no, here. It's okay. Now, so which version would you use with your EFL learners and why? So we have the original version, the simplified version, and the scaffolded version of the article. Now, what keeps from the authentic texts? Okay, the original version, all the original content. Simplified version keeps the basic message. The scaffolded version keeps the original, but adds supports like a glossary, comprehension questions, pre, during, and post. What gains or loses? The original article, hey, it uses difficult language. The simplified version simplifies vocabulary and grammar, loses authenticity. The scaffolded version provides help and it supports reading. Basically, doesn't lose anything. Useful for which level? Elena was asking. Well, the original article for high B2 and above. And when I mean B2 is intermediate level. Someone who is able to communicate in English, is fluent, might have some difficulties speaking in the past, but a B2 is an intermediate level student. The simplified version, from A2 to B1, from beginner to intermediate. The scaffolded version can be used with intermediate students and upper intermediate students. Now, what would you guys use with a B1 class and with A2 beginners? What version would you use and why? Also is an event that never happened before in a country. I have some students from Costa Rica and Ecuador, so I could talk with them about how this event was perceived by us and their external comments and personal thoughts. Amazing, Ida. Do it. Do it. It's nice to work with that. So guys, what would you use? What version would you use in a B1 class? When I say B1, is intermediate. What version would you use? The original, says Iraldin. Simplified, says Ellie and I. I mean, it also depends on your students, like the way they process information. I highly recommend you to use the scaffolded version because it helps your student, takes your student by the hand. Look at the difference. Let me go back. This is the authentic example. You don't see any other clues. It's just the article as it is. Simplified version, only simple sentences. No other clues to help your student. Now look at the scaffolded version. Pre-reading questions. Tips. You change the color of some important terms. You give them a glossary. With the scaffolded version, any student can work. Now, let's practice. Let's scaffold a real text. I'm going to quickly search on the web. I'm going to bring an article, and you guys are going to help me scaffold a real text. So let's take a look at this chart we have here. So to understand the scaffolding technique, this is how we divide it. So we need pre-reading questions, visual aids, images, icons. I have a student, one of my best friends. She's exaggeratedly visual. Like she needs pictures to understand things. You need a glossary, especially for difficult words, and writing frame or prompt like this one. A tip for them. Or you can change the colors of the letters. Now, the idea, guys, is let me stop sharing here for a second, because if I start looking for the article, then Zoom has like an error that no, your screen stopped sharing. I panicked and whatever. Let me look for an article quickly. Let's say, the BTS thing. BTS concert, Bogota. Let me see if I can find an article in English because it's difficult. Oh my God. I need an article in English. Jesus Christ. Article. Give me a second, guys. Here. Finally. Finally. And it's an Argentinian webpage, which is written in English. Oh, who would have thought? Well, the thing is, let me now share. So let me share. So this is the article. It's a real article. It's in English. And let's scaffold. So, in the chat, guys, what pre-reading questions could you give your students before you show them the article? Tell me in the chat. Have you ever listened to a BTS song? What else? Pre-reading questions. Do you know BTS group? Do you know when they formed as a band or when the band was formed? Have you heard something about them? So pre-reading questions are supposed to find out how much your students know about the topic. Okay. What do you think about Asian culture? But Italy, I would be like more specific. What do you think about K-pop? Like more specific, because if you go talk about Asian cultures, like extremely general. Extremely general. So that is the first thing. Now we need visual aids. So do you like BTS music? Okay, Anchor. Now, what pictures, what images would you use? Would you use like that one on the screen? What kind of pictures would you use? For the visual aids. Let me know. Let me know in the chat. You just need to a picture of this. The guys on a concert. That's the visual aids, so your students know who you're talking about. Comic. Oh my God, are there comics of those guys? Oh gosh.
I don't know
Okay.
if they're comics, but
I
like
mean, I don't
pictures,
know. I have no idea either.
pictures, I don't know either. Pictures
I
like
could use the flag of
comics.
South Korea. Yes, I Anker has just shared a picture. Are you a fan, Anker? Are you a fan? Are you an army? I mean, I'm not saying anything. I'm just curious. Are you an army? That's why. So Anker feels like this is my time to shine. Okay, Anchor. So this is your time to shine. You are helping us. Yes, my time has come. I knew that knowing about these guys, I knew that knowing the blood type of every single member of BTS was going to be helpful one day. So, so that's a picture that Anchor would use, and it's a nice picture to be honest. I mean, for their fans would be like, oh my god, yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, now we need a glossary of key or new words. Let me go to the article. Guys, this part. Do you can you find a word that you think could be new or maybe a little bit difficult for your students? Think about your students. Is there a word you see there that could be difficult for your students? Can you zoom the article? Yeah, let me zoom. Septet. There you go. A septet. Hiatus. Yes. What else would you use? Atentamente la ciega. Uh-huh. Now, here. Any other word that you would use, guys? Membership, yeah, maybe for students the word membership is not common, yeah. Mm-hmm. And look at that anchor. They will be here in Buenos Aires. So feel jealous that I am here. Must seen, yes. Must seen. Where is it? I haven't seen it here, but the expression must seen is important to where is it? Oh my God. Here. Must see. Classic host. So you see, you create a glossary of with those words, which you think might be new for your students. Another thing that I would include, and let me help you here, this. Very likely. Because some people don't know, it means muy probablemente. Okay, or muy probable. A lot of students don't know because they think like is gustar. They don't know the expression likely. So you create your glossary of new words. Then, which words would you highlight from the article? Not because they are difficult for your students, but words that you think could be used for comprehension questions. Most of them are already highlighted here. Look, Buenos Aires, October 23rd and 24th, 2026. K-pop, River Plate Stadium. The words that you see highlighted here, they are a good choice from whoever wrote this article. I don't know who. I just looked for a random article, guys. So that's how you, let me stop sharing here and let me go back to our class. So that's how you scaffold a real text. So remembering the article we just saw, pre-reading questions keeps all the original context. Okay, why asking people about the BTS band, about their songs, about K-pop? Why do you think it helps your students? Why do you think it helps your students? Let me know in the chat. For the engagement, what else? Yes, if they like BTS. Even those who don't know about BTS or don't like them, because let's face it, not a lot of people know like them. But right now, it's really common among students. They are extremely famous here. And here in Argentina, I know the tickets are already sold out. The concert is in October. The tickets are already sold out. Argentinians are absolutely crazy when it comes to concerts. They buy everything. Why is it important to include visual aids? Why is it important to include pictures? Tell me, guys. Why is it important to include pictures? to make a connection between the text and the information that is there. Connect with the students and the info. It could help students if they don't know a word exactly. For example, you saw there was River Plate Stadium. So you can add a picture of River Plate Stadium. It's called El Monumental, by the way. And it's the biggest stadium in Argentina so far. That's why the concert is going to be there. To help visual learners. That's the most important thing. Thank you so much, Iraldine. It also can, hello, Amy. Can also help students who are visual learners. Yeah. Now, why including a glossary of keywords helps? Why does it help? Why adding a glossary of words helps? In order for them to remember the words, or not to remember, to know the meaning of the words, because remember, the glossary of keywords is normally you use words they don't know, or that could be difficult, or that are extremely important in the article. Okay. So, from reading to writing to thinking, it's a teaching sequence. So, guys, this is what you need to understand, the steps you need to follow when you are scaffolding an article. Step 1, read. So you read a short news article. In that part, your student is trying to see, okay, what skill am I practicing here? Of course, you're practicing reading. Then the second step is write. Because you have, okay, summarize the main idea or rewrite the title. For example, the original article from BTS said, it's really long. BTS confirmed 2 concerts in Buenos Aires as part of the world tour. Dates, tickets, and everything that is known. A really long article. Long title, sorry. Well, they can summarize the headline, especially if they are like anchor who are armies, and she can make a better job. Do a better job, sorry. So this helps you help your student succeed, because by this line they must already know how to make how to summarize information. And the final step, which is thinking, what would you do in that situation? I mean, first, you read the article and you know what's going on. Okay, BTS is coming to town. They have this concert. They haven't gone on a tour for so long because of this and that. Now, you summarize the main idea, rewrite the headline. Now, what would you do on this third part to help your students reflect on, again, the article about BTS? So, on this third part, what would you do, guys, for your students? What would be the thinking exercise here for your students? What would you do? Let me know. What would you do? They have already read the article about BTS. They have summarized. So, padre, está con palabras del glosario. Okay. Oh, yeah, yeah. Or with words. Maybe a crossword exercise with words from the reading. Yeah. With words from the reading. Yeah. What else could you do, guys? Fill in the blank space activity. Comprehension. I would talk about my experiences acquiring vocabulary through their songs. Yeah, and that will be cool for them. Oh, my teacher is an army. Oh my God. Yeah, you know. Yeah, Elena, I got the idea. Don't worry. Now, I just gave you two different topics. The one about Nicolas Maduro, the one about BTS. But guys, what topics would work well for a sequence like this in your classes? In your classes, especially sad that Lily is not connected because she was with children. But for your classes, guys, what topics would be great to work with the scaffolding technique and the reading to writing sequence? What topics? Think about authentic material. Authentic material. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Immigration. Yep. Mm-hmm. What else? Again, think about real material, authentic texts. When you say immigration, you could talk about what's happening right now in the United States. I don't want to say a lot of things because you know YouTube, but you know what's happening now with the ICE and the immigrants there. So that's a controversial topic, but it's something happening right now. So your students could have read about it and they have their own ideas. I asked about the students' musical tastes and would see them. Nice. Harry Styles' new CD. Yes. Some popular artists like BTS or any others. Yes. I have a student who studies medicine, so we could find an article for exactly, exactly. An article, yeah. How are they? I'm not gonna say the word because YouTube taking over the European continent. Yes, yes, that's things happening around the world right now. Things that your students can find easily with just almost just a click. So it's really important to work with those materials. So this is a teaching sequence. So you can get a capture of this, the positive invasion of to I can't say it because YouTube, but yes, yes, that's another controversial topic happening right now. Yes, and that's an amazing idea because a lot of people, especially in Venezuela, don't know, okay, why is this country wanting to invade this other country? So it's interesting. So get a capture of this, guys, because this can help you whenever you want to work with this sequence. Read, write, and reflect. For example, you have environment, technology, that's your topic. Or let's say the devil's advocate. Yes, yes. Let's say for your topic, you're going to choose, I don't know. Let's keep talking about K-pop. What the hell? The topic is K-pop's popularity is rising, for example, and we know it's rising. Whether you like it or not, it's rising. Now, what type of text? Well, you can use the news article that I just showed you. Then you have your students read the article, but first you scaffold the article like you saw. Then the part of writing is then answering the questions, summarizing the article, and then reflect with, you can use the reflect part with questions like obvious questions like, would you like to go to one of the BTS concerts? Because fans will tell you, yes, absolutely, I want to go. And there are some other students who would say, no, I don't like those Chinese guys, although they are Korean, but you know how people are. I don't like them. I don't want to watch them. So that's one thing you can do. Now, what level would this activity that we worked with, the BTS activity, what level would this be good for? A2, B1, what level do you think this activity would be good for? Let me know. B1, yeah, B1. From B1 and on. From B1 and on. B1, B2, yeah. You can't go lower than that. You can't. You can't go lower than that. Because they have to argue. Exactly. Exactly. Now, I'm going to show you some strategies for teaching reading in a classroom. In a classroom. And then I want you to tell me whether you could use these activities or not. Again, make sure you get captures of this because it's also great, especially if you're working in a classroom, which is like the most common thing in Venezuela, okay? Now, when you are designing low-tech strategies for teaching reading, like in a classroom, presential, okay? First, think about the tools you already have. You have a whiteboard or blackboard. You can have or buy, I don't know, sticky notes, flashcards, printed text or photocopies, which is the most common thing in Venezuela, paper and markers, classroom wall space, so you can put something and your students can paste things there. Reading activities, there is one called the jigsaw reading. What do? Well, you divide a class text into parts. Each group reads a segment and then share the summary with peers. So you give them an article, and let's go back to the article about BTS. You give them the full article, but in parts. They don't know what's the first part, what's the middle, what's the last part of the article, but you give them the article. They need to read them in groups. Then you have one of them read aloud, and in groups, they decide what's the first part of the article, what's the second, what's the third part. That's like a jigsaw. A jigsaw. So this is really great to do. You can do read and match. They read phrases and they match the phrases with the meanings. You write the meaning on the board. Your student reads a phrase on a paper, and then he goes to the board and matches or pastes the phrase with the word or expression they think it relates to. Read and draw for those students who love drawing. They read the scene based on what they read. So they draw, okay? The scene based on what they read. I did that, yes, because this is really great. They draw a scene based on what they read. This was a mistake from the AI. Don't read this part. This one. This one. So the student, they read something and they need to draw based on what they read. Here you're working with comprehension. And at the same time, if your students love drawing, it will be amazing. Now, Maria Daniela said she has used this, but guys, have you used any of these activities or are they new for you? Let me know. Have you used them? Are they new? Sorry. Read and match, Geraldine. Nice. Read and match. Now, let me show you writing activities. Paper-based writing tasks. So, speed writing, of course, for people who already know. Short time writing on a topic or prompt. This is for advanced students. You give them a topic and they need to write in a given time. And then you check the mistakes and everything they read aloud. Dictogloss. This is a really cool thing to do. Here, you read a text. You ask your students to pay attention. You read the text, a story, whatever. Then, after you read the text, your students are supposed to reconstruct the story in pairs. That's from their memory. This is a really good one. Story chains, 1 line per student. Students write 1 line each and you create a full story. Our students say, okay, once upon a time, the little bunny went to the forest. That's the first line. Then the next student has to continue the list, the story, sorry. Board races, especially if you have a big group. If you have a big group, you can have them run to the board. They write the answers. They can write whatever they remember about a specific part, and whoever writes more gets more points for their team. That's especially good with teenagers and children. Again, as you can see the problem with the AI here, it repeats this so many times. But I mean, AI is great. I love using AI to design. I just gave ChatGPT the idea, but it like did this many times, whatever. Could this work in your classroom? Could any of this work in your classroom, guys? Let me know. You know your students. I don't. Do you think it could work in your classrooms? What do you think? Mm-hmm. Tell me. Some of you have used this. Maybe you didn't know.
Maybe the first one with my
Because they are university students. So they are supposed to be able to do this. But if any of you, maybe watching this video, are working in an academy, this is a good exercise for the advanced students. Now, one last part. Reflection, journals, and light tech ideas. This is also for presential classes. For example, for metacognition and reflection, think, pair, share. Well, students reflect individually, they discuss in pairs, then share. Like you read the story for them, they get together in pairs, they share their thoughts. Then, when time's up, you ask them, and of course, they could say, well, I thought that I don't understand why people go crazy about BTS. I don't like K-pop, blah, blah, blah. But my friend, she loves them, and she said that it is a time for students to share ideas. Reading journals, they write a short reflection about what they read. If it's the BTS article, okay, write A short reflection of what you think. Do you think K-pop will continue moving on? Do you think K-pop will fade away? Whatever. Exit tickets. This, like groups, they write facts about what they read. If if they do it correctly, okay, you can go. This is good, a good one too. Now, without internet, sticky note boards. Like you can print some templates, paste them on a board in the classroom, and student can come and check them every once so often. Which of these have you used before, guys? Anchor, nice. Which one did you use, Anchor? The sticky note boards? Okay, okay. You can, for example, make a sticky note, again, about the article of BTS, for example. You can have every student write a fact about the article, the BTS article, and then they can paste it on the board. Then you can, as a teacher, select a sticky note, read it, and have the group find who wrote who they think wrote the sticky note based on the words they said. Sometimes it's funny because if one of the girls is like a crazy BTS fan, she will write something like, "Oh yes, I love them and I'm an army forever." And then there is the hater that those Chinese guys, I hate them, and the yes, this was Fulanito because he hates them. And it's something funny for you to do in a classroom. Okay, so what did we learn today, guys? I want you to tell me. Oh, complete these sentences on the chat. On the chat. Scaffolding helps because authentic texts are useful when an integrated sequence allows learners to. Would you please complete at least one of these 3 sentences on the chat for me? Please, please, please. And as you do so, I want you to tell me what is one strategy from today that you will use in your next class, if you can. Let me know. One strategy that you will use in your next class. Or that at least called your attention and you would consider using in your next class. Sticky notes, okay. It's easy to do, sticky notes one. Just need to buy the thingy, the sticky notes. Give them to your students. Make sure they don't kill each other over the sticky notes. I love sticky notes, says Anchor. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you need to find creative ways to make it entertaining, different for your students. Okay. Let me. Authentic texts are useful when the students need to learn new vocabulary for real life. Yes. You don't know how important this is. I'm working right now with my 2 best friends. It's not like English classes. We are practicing English because they both speak English. But what we're doing is we're watching YouTube videos, specific YouTube videos, and we're working on the video comprehension. Board races, says Anchor. So we started with short horror stories, and it's nice because you have the horror story. You need to understand what they're saying. It's really cool to work with that. And they are 6 minutes, 7 minutes. Of course, I'm working in an online context and I can do that. An integrated sequence allows learners to improve not only their reading skills, but also vocabulary acquisition. Yes. Yes. I did it for myself sometimes too. Nice, Amy. Because working with video comprehension helps you with everything. And my friends, they love horror stories as well. So, okay. Let me stop sharing. Y ya puedo cerrar el English. Pero bien, espero que eh, puedan llevarse. I don't like horror stories, dice Anker. Pero son geniales. De hecho, para que sepan, chicos, que cosa que lo comentaba a mis amigas, hay la progresión para trabajar si quieres trabajar o mejorar tu comprensión de videos, en inglés, obviamente. La progresión deberá ser así. Comienza con historias de terror. Corta si te gusta el terror. Si no, ya te di un ejemplo. Ajá, historias de terror cortas. ¿Ok? Tienen poco diálogo y generalmente las que se consiguen en YouTube tienen finales abiertos que se prestan para que al final el estudiante pueda reflexionar sobre lo que entendió o lo que cree que pasa al final. ¿No te gustan las historias de terror? Bueno, entonces vete a escenas cortas de acción. Hay muchas en YouTube de películas y de series. Las escenas de acción tienen poco diálogo también y también sirven. Luego de eso pasan a escenas de comedia, porque en la comedia se necesita que se entienda bien lo que se dice para que el chiste entre, obviamente. El último paso son escenas de drama, porque tienes frases filosóficas, tienes frases idiomáticas, tienes analogías y o a veces una persona se tira una reflexión que como que se la fumó verde y bueno, yo uso estudios bíblicos en inglés, como ya los conozco en español, pero me sirve para aprender vocabulario. Exacto, exacto.
Profe,
Yo empezaba con historias
mala,
y trataba para niños. ¿Qué
profe,
pasó, Marianela? Dime.
una pregunta. ¿Y no te pasa que a veces o sea, yo puedo pasar toda la mañana, yo paso toda la mañana, por ejemplo, los jueves, toda la mañana, los martes, hablando toda la mañana con los muchachos, ¿no? En inglés. Y yo ya a las 2:30 ya no quiero hablar en inglés. Yo me canso, mi cerebro dice, ya, me cansé, estoy agotado. No, como,
Yo estoy todo el día hablando en inglés. Y me pasa a veces que mi tía me pregunta algo en español y yo, yeah, but you can. Más tarde, tía. Más tarde. Así. O sea, tengo que pasar el switch. Es una cosa. Una cosa. Es
horrible, profesor, ¿qué
normal.
me pasa?
Ok. Bueno, chicos. Thank you por haber asistido. Igual, mañana, hoy no. Mañana les paso el link de la clase cuando la suba a YouTube para quien no se pudo conectar o no la pudo ver completa. Have a nice weekend. Chaito a todos, ¿ok? Bye bye.